In 2005, the New York Times called him the automotive version of P.T. Barnum, the greatest carnival showman in American history. Over 6 decades, this man started more than 30 companies. He brought Subaru to America. He brought Yugo to America. He brought a Chinese car company to America. Almost every one of those ventures collapsed. And yet, every single time, he walked away richer than before. His name was Malcolm Bricklin. And in 1974, 2 years before John DeLorean started building his stainless steel time machine, Bricklin built a Gullwing Supercar of his own. It nearly bankrupted a Canadian province. This is his story. In 1968, Malcolm Bricklin was 29 years old. He had already made his first $1 million selling hardware franchises in Florida. Now, he wanted to sell cars. He flew to Japan and convinced a small company called Fuji Heavy Industries to let him import their tiny city car into the United States. The car was called the Subaru 360. It weighed less than 1,000 pounds, which, under American law, meant it was exempt from every single federal safety regulation. Bricklin gave it a marketing slogan that became infamous: cheap and ugly. That was the actual advertisement. Cheap and ugly does it. For 1 year, it worked. Then, in April 1969, Consumer Reports magazine put the Subaru 360 on its cover. The headline called it the most unsafe car in America. In their crash test, when the 360 collided with a normal American sedan, it was crushed to half its original size. Insurance companies stopped writing policies overnight. Sales went to zero. Bricklin was left with 1,000 unsellable cars sitting at American ports. What did he do? He painted them in bright colors, like giant Easter eggs, built a dirt racetrack behind his New Jersey office, and rented them out by the lap. $1 per lap. The Subaru 360 ended its American life as an amusement park ride. But here is the part that defines Malcolm Bricklin. Fuji wanted out. They paid him $20 million to walk away. He took the money and used it to start his own car company. In 1972, Bricklin announced he would build the safest sports car ever made. He gave it a name designed to humiliate his critics: Safety Vehicle 1, SV1. He hired a designer named Herb Grass, the man who had designed the original Batmobile for the 1960s television show. Grass designed a low, aggressive coupe with electric gullwing doors, the first and only production car in history with powered gullwings. The body was made of colored acrylic plastic, a material no one had ever used on a car before. There was no quality control standard for it, so Bricklin's father invented one. His method? A 7-pound hammer. If you could hit the part with a 7-pound hammer and it didn't shatter, it passed. That was the quality test. There was one more detail. Malcolm Bricklin did not smoke, and he believed smoking while driving was unsafe. So the SV1 became the only mass-produced car in American history with no ashtray and no cigarette lighter. In 1973, Bricklin walked into the office of Richard Hatfield, the premier of the Canadian province of New Brunswick. Unemployment in New Brunswick was nearly 25%. Bricklin made an offer Hatfield couldn't refuse. Build my factory here, and I'll create 1,200 jobs. The province agreed to fund almost the entire project. Hatfield drove an orange Bricklin SV1 as his official campaign car. Canadian newspapers called his 1974 re-election the Bricklin Election. For the engine, Bricklin needed a V8. He chose American Motors. But Bricklin had a habit of insulting his suppliers in the press. The CEO of AMC, Bill Lundberg, finally called him into a meeting and said, "Every engine we sell you is one less AMC car we sell." Bricklin threatened to take AMC to Washington for antitrust violations. AMC agreed to supply 700 engines, just enough to launch. Then production began, and it became a disaster. 15 to 25% of every plastic body panel had to be thrown out because the bonding failed. The factory could not keep up. The car was supposed to cost $4,000. By 1975, the price had more than doubled to nearly $10,000. The 5 available colors included one that Bricklin himself jokingly called Vomit Green. The official name was Safety Suntan. By September 1975, the company had built only 2,800 cars, and it owed the Canadian government $23 million. The factory closed. New Brunswick taxpayers were left holding the bill. But here is what almost no one knows. Around the same time Bricklin was building the SV1, a former General Motors executive named John DeLorean came to him with a proposal. The two of them, together, would build a futuristic stainless steel sports car. Bricklin and DeLorean met. The talks fell apart. DeLorean walked away and started his own company in Northern Ireland. His car would have stainless steel panels. It would have gullwing doors. It would look, many people noticed, remarkably similar to the Bricklin SV1 prototype, the one Bricklin called the Gray Ghost. To this day, Bricklin claims DeLorean stole the idea from him. In 1985, after the SV1 had collapsed, Bricklin came back. This time, he imported a car from Yugoslavia called the Yugo. 36,000 sold in its first year, a record for any imported car launching in America. Today, the Yugo is on almost every list of the worst cars ever made. In 2004, at 65 years old, he came back again. This time, he tried to bring Chinese cars from a company called Chery into the United States. He signed 400 American dealers. The deal collapsed by 2007. And yet, through every failure, Malcolm Bricklin only got richer. At his peak, he owned a 5,000-acre estate in the Colorado Rockies. It had an indoor shooting range, a riverfront swimming pool, a helipad, and a pet camel. He has been married 3 times. He has 6 sons. He told a journalist once, "The things people see as failures are often the steps to success. I got my fame and power from the failure of the Bricklin." The greatest carnival showman in American auto history was never selling cars. He was selling himself. Subaru, SV1, Yugo, Chery. Every one of them failed. Every one of them made him more famous. The man who never built a successful car became the most unforgettable name in American auto history. That is Malcolm Bricklin.